Hi everybody, Tony again with Shinsho Yoga, and today I've got a whole lot of toys in front of me. Yoga toys. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about props and what props you should have for your own home practice, in my opinion. When you go to a studio, of course, they have usually a plethora of props, hopefully a well-equipped studio, and your teacher is going to tell you at the beginning of class which ones generally they want you to have, and if you've been practicing a while, you probably already know which ones you want. But if you don't, I will recommend, of course, what you should have in the studio, but also, again, so what you have at home. Right now, currently under the current conditions in my country, in the United States of America, we're all pretty much locked down. I'm teaching a lot of classes via Zoom online now to students. So it's important to have a setup at your home, not only in case of extraneous circumstances like as this, but you should have a home practice. I'm not saying that going to a studio and having your regular community and group is something that you should be ancillary to it. Yeah, you want to have that community and that studio and that teacher that you trust. But a good home practice is important. And it can be very challenging to know what to buy, just as with yoga mats, as I talked about in the prior video of how to pick a yoga mat and comparing and contrasting different mats. I'm going to do that today with props. So let's start, before we get into the different types of props, what I feel you should have at home, right, to practice with. You should have a yoga blanket, yoga blocks, and a strap. Right? These three things, blanket, blocks, and a strap. If you don't get a strap, a minimum blocks and a blanket. If you don't get blocks, a minimum a blanket, right? That you should have for a home practice. In my opinion, all three for a home practice. Blanket, blocks, and a strap. If you are tight on money or right now could only order maybe or get one thing, go with the blanket. Because the blanket can make up in certain cases for blocks, but blocks can't make up for a blanket. Strap really can't be made up for with anything, but you don't always need a strap, and everything you do can help you out in certain postures. So a minimum for your home practice I would have is, again, at least a blanket and a set of blocks. A little bit more, a blanket, a set of blocks, and a strap. Right? But what I would really recommend is having two blankets. Right? Two blankets for your home practice. Now, the type of blanket that you get is important. Right? These, the general ones that you see in a yoga practice, are referred to as Mexican blankets. Okay? I'm not going to unravel the whole thing for you, but they are pretty heavy duty. I keep one in my car at all times, not only just for the reason of, I teach different places and can need it certain places who don't have props, but, go out on the beach sometime, especially when I teach beach yoga in the summer. To have this, mats don't work on the beach. You need a blanket. But even if I just want to go sit out on the beach, you've got a blanket. These are constructed of, let's see here, 100% reclaimed fibers. I'm good with that. This is the company that makes this called Veracruz. It says the Falsa blanket. I've never heard them call that before. Made in Mexico. A machine wash or hand in cold, hang dry. Very important. Do not dry these in a dryer. They will shrink, right? So you will want to wash them from time to time because they will get gross after a while. But do not dry them in a dryer. They will shrink. So put them in a machine, warm or cold, and then just hang them up to dry. But I recommend having two Mexican style blankets, two of these, because these can work for so much. You can not only put them underneath your knees if you have trouble there with that. If you're making things like a heart bench that you're going to lay onto to open the chest up, you can stack them one on top of the other. You can use them when like seated folds to bring underneath the body to be able to give you a little bit of a lift up to pitch you forward, so you have a little bit of an advantage in the fold. I use them in pigeon pose all the time between the hip and the floor to help support. If you are struggling when you sit in, say, something like Hero or Virasana, you fold them up, you tuck it between the the glutes and the heels. They are unbelievably versatile. And when you bring your head down onto the mat for, say, child's pose, maybe your head is uncomfortable, maybe you need a little bit of lift up, you can take these up and put them on there. So a sturdy Mexican blanket, they pretty much only come in one size. Where you can get them, I order from a place generally called the Yoga Outlet. They are not a sponsor here. I don't have any sponsors, so you don't have to worry about that. But they're relatively inexpensive. You can get them at certain other places. You can find them generally if you go down, if you live near the beach. You go along. During the season, they'll be expensive. You'll say Mexican blankets because, that's when they're going to make their most money. If you go off season, it's cheaper. But a place I order from is called theyogooutlet.com, and I think they're $11. And the more you order, the cheaper. So the first thing I would recommend for your practice is a Mexican blanket. Now, sometimes people, when I tell them to get a blanket, a yoga blanket, they show up with one of these. This is not a yoga blanket. This is a microfiber towel, right, that is meant for yoga. What the idea behind this is that you take this, it's usually as big as the mat, and it'll go out on the mat. And what it does is, as you're sweating and such like that, it offers you more tackiness, more grip, gives you friction on the mat there. So if you sweat like I do, I sweat in my practice, this type of towel is to give you more traction. I don't recommend them. I have one when I first started doing yoga, and I was struggling with the mats and the proper tackiness. Someone had given this to me. They said, here, use this. And looks like it's actually made by Manduka. It's got the Manduka logo on it, that frog, like that. It's a neat logo. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but it's cool. Maybe I'll get a close-up after. But it bunches up. If you're in a vinyasa practice, an active practice where you're moving a lot, this thing is just going to bunch up on you. It doesn't stay put. It's not glued to your mat. You're going to constantly readjust it. And if you're dragging a foot, you're going through an hour and a half class that's busy, you're going to end up, at certain points dragging your foot, or, maybe some point not maybe moving exactly. And this is going to catch and pull it, and you're going to constantly readjust it. So I don't recommend using it, and it does not substitute for this. Like I said, I've had sometimes students show up, especially at the college where I teach, where I say pick up a yoga blanket, and they come in with this. There's an obvious difference. The reason we want this is because of the versatility of it to lift us up in certain poses and offer us cushioning in others. This is not designed to do that. Right? This is just to help you on the mat, to help with grippiness. Some people I know like them. I don't, and I don't recommend them because if you're not doing an active practice, you really don't need this. Right? An active practice is when you would need this, and it's not going to really serve you so well. Get a stickier mat. Again, I have a video on that. You can feel free to watch it. So I keep this in my car as a backup towel for surfing to put over my seat when I come in from surfing, if I still have my wetsuit on, to keep my seat dry. That and a layer of plastic. But it doesn't really work. It does not work as a substitute for a yoga blanket. And again, I don't really care for it as for stickiness on the mat. So, blankets. Mexican blanket, at least one for your home practice. Before I get into blocks, because I have a lot of them to talk about, let me talk about a strap, because they're relatively simple. A strap. This one is about 6 feet long. For a home practice, that's all you're really going to need. You want one with these D-rings at the end, because with the D-rings, you're going to end up looping it through, coming around the other so you can lock things in. And with doing that, that's where you can maybe put it around an appendage and pull, or whatever it needs to be. They make longer. They make 12 feet ones, I think 10-foot ones. I think they're about $4 or $5 for these, but a strap is important to help you get into access of poses that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. I use it when I'm doing for my shoulders here, because I can't do the damage in the shoulder. I can't reach my hands in the back. So I use this and I grab onto this. You can do it around the feet and you're forward folding. Many, many things that this can help you with. They're not expensive. Again, this is about a 6'1", and I think it was, again, $4 or $5. So a strap is good to have at home. I wouldn't recommend if you have a if you're using a strap that carries your yoga mat, that you're using that instead. It's not as strong. It doesn't have the D-rings. It doesn't have the length. Plus, I would suggest you carry it in a bag versus using straps. But a strap, very important. Again, I got this at, again, Yoga Outlet. I think it was $4 or $5. So, blankets and a strap. So let's talk about blocks now. And I have a whole setup of different blocks here and what they're for and why you choose one or the over the other. My recommendation is a pair of cork blocks. Okay. You can also get foam blocks. Right. I have a different set of cork blocks here, and this is a foam block from Five Below, my favorite place. This also came from Five Below. These are Hugger Mugger, right? This is a brand, right, of cork block. These come from Yoga Outlet. These are from Five Below. These are from Five Below. What is the difference? Cork blocks offer you more stability in your poses, right? So if you are in a standing pose like a half moon, a revolved half moon, and you need to put your hand down onto a block to be able to help support you, this type of block is going to offer you stability and sturdiness. Right? If you are in Warrior 3 and you're trying to maintain and you got to bring a hand down to help support you in our two hands, this will do that. You're in pyramid pose, runner stretch, you can't come all the way down. Putting your hands on these. These will help support you in triangle, in extended side angle, any pose. A cork block is going to offer you much more support over a foam block, right? The foam block has give. When I lean on this, right, I'll move these. When I lean on this, and I'm a pretty big guy, so there's a lot going into this, it'll flex. Now, these are a good set, so these don't flex all that much, which these are fine for your practice also, and I'll go over that. But these, they don't flex at all. So anytime you're going to have to rely on stability or put your weight down onto a block, cork blocks are the way to go. So why would you get foam? Foam blocks, now these again are a good foam block. They're relatively stiff. Right? They do offer a good amount of support, but they do have some give, especially on the sides here. So if you're putting your weight down on it, it can wiggle from side to side where this pretty much isn't. This, if I push a little to the side, this, it really doesn't. So a foam block is going to have some give in it, where the cork block is not going to have give in it. If you do get a foam block, you want to get a relatively stiff one. But there is an advantage to a foam block over a cork block. Because of this give, anytime you need to use this as a support underneath the body, say for the back, for a heart bench, under the sacrum in, say, bridge position, maybe you're doing something for the shoulders and you're having it come between the shoulders or the neck or underneath the hip in pigeon. These edges, as you weigh down on it, will give. They won't cut into you. This will. There's no give. So when your sacrum comes on it, it's hard on it. If your shoulders are on it, it'll pinch right in the center, right? Your neck coming under your hip, it's not going to mold down to it. Where the foam block will have some give, and it'll make it more comfortable and easier for you to stay in those types of positions longer. So a foam block is better for supported positions. A cork block is better for stability. No matter what you do, though, if you get foam blocks, and there's nothing wrong with it, it depends on your preference. You want to get a stiffer foam block. Some blocks you can just lean into them and they're like, wah. These are relatively stiff. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Cork blocks are great for stability, better for stability. Foam blocks are better for supported postures. Which one do you think I think you should have at home? It's really a personal preference and what you can afford. These are much less expensive than these, but not less expensive than these. What am I talking about? This is a brand name. These are Hugger Mugger. Hugger Mugger's, I think, a set of blocks. I apologize, I didn't look it up before I started the video. I think they're about $30 for a set of these. They're good blocks, but here is a set of blocks from Five Below, just as sturdy. They're only about an inch, let's see here, about an inch thinner, and these are $5 each. They're just as sturdy. They're the same, relatively the same construction. Honestly, I don't see any difference. And actually, these from Five Below is an inch taller here this way, but an inch shorter that way. So $10 for those two versus $30 or so for this. I would buy these, but these came from Yoga Outlet, and I think these were, I think they're $3 or $4 a block. They're sturdy. Depends on what type of practice you do and what you need more. Do you need stability more, or do you do more supported postures? Again, supported posture, stability. These are heavier. These are light, right? So maybe if you're traveling from place to place a lot, you want these versus these. Really, it's up to you. What this one at the end is one a student gave me, and this is, again, from Five Below. This is their Series 8. I never even opened it. 9 by 6 by 3. It's the same size as this one, so that's what that is, 9 by 6 by 3. And it's relatively sturdy. It's as sturdy as this one, but again, it's not as tall, right? Not as in the height there. It's a little bit, it's about the same that way. Right? Just here is the difference. Five Below, those were $5 at Five Below. I think this is cheaper, maybe $3 or maybe even $1. I like Five Below. I have a lot of good stuff. If I was setting up my own home practice, I would buy these. $10 for the pair. Nice and steady. I have these also, though, so if I'm doing something with a supported posture, I would use these instead. So if you really want to set yourself up, buy both, right? You can, at Five Below, you buy these for $10, and I think this might cost you another $6 for two of these, right? So you're $16. This will cost you, I don't like the straps they have at Five Below. They have the ones with like a plastic junction end. You want the D-ring. These are sturdier. They work better. The plastic is cheap and it won't hold. Sometimes it'll pull apart when you do it. You don't want that. You want these for the adjustment there. This is better. So I wouldn't recommend the strap from Five Below, but set of blocks, right? Again, you want to get foam and cork. It's great. Mexican blanket, I think they're 12, somewhere around $12 if you use Yoga Outlet. Maybe you find them cheaper at the end of the summer at a beach store. So let's say $12 each, 12, 12. If you get two, so that's 24, right? This is 6, 30, 10. Say you get two of these on top, right? Another 6, probably. It's $40. It's a good deal. What you could use, what you would need that for, and let's say you just get one blanket, 12, one strap, you're up to what, 19, two blocks for $625. $25, right? At a minimum, what I would recommend. You pull out the strap. I mean, whatever shipping and tax, you have to figure that out yourself. Pull that out, you're down below 20, right? But again, I would recommend 2 blocks, 2 blankets, and a strap. The type of block is entirely up to you. Whether you want cork, whether you want foam, it depends on the type of practice you have. If you can afford both, have sets of both. Thickness, again, if you want the super heavy duty hugger-muggers, they're a little thicker. But again, I keep these at home. These travel with me in my car when I go teach because they're just as good, and they were $10 for the pair. So let's recap. Mexican blanket, at least one, about $12. You can find it a lot of different places. Not a microfiber towel. This is not a substitute, and whatever quilt you have on your bed is not a substitute for a yoga blanket. Get a yoga blanket. Get a strap, minimum I would say about 6 feet with D-rings. Get 2 blocks, right? You can get cork, you can get foam, depending on what your type of practice you have. I like cork. These ones from Five Below, relatively cheap, but their foam block is relatively sturdy too. That's it. That's all I got. So I hope everybody is healthy, and family and friends are all healthy, and you're adjusting well. I am running some online classes right now. If anybody watching wants to be a part of it, just reach out to me. I can give you the information. Otherwise, do your best you can. You practice at home. Breathe and follow your breath. And as your thoughts arise, acknowledge them, allow them to pass by, return to the breath. Thanks for watching. Namaste. This is my stand-in, so I can get a focus.